Happy Wednesday and happy Veterans Day. So I've gotten really good response from people saying people like it when I'm real, that I'm just telling it like it is and I'm being really forthright and honest. So I'm going to go there today with a topic that I don't know that I ever have, to be honest, except with my closest friends, but I think it's one that is worth sharing. So I'm often seeing in lots of places, but many times in Facebook boards where there's a lot of teachers convening, that some teachers are so beyond burnout, more than just, regular exhaustion, that they're actually considering leaving teaching full time. And they're trying to make a decision. They're trying to figure out what can they do if they don't teach full time. Should they do this? It's an incredibly hard decision. It's one that I've made a couple of different times in my career for different reasons. Sometimes it was family. That's come up many times. Now it's wanting to make sure I can take care of my mother after my father passed away. But years ago, it was making sure I could take care of my daughter when she was an infant. And so I was like, it is the situation that I'm teaching in terms of the hours, um, and that I'm working on, or the travel or whatever. Is it working for my family life as well as my professional life? But another reason that I've made this decision has been when I've been in a situation where I was just really unhappy, really miserable, and it wasn't necessarily an outside situation with family. It was more internal to where I was teaching and was I happy or not. And those of us who have taught in for a while, it happens. You don't always find your exact match the first time you do this, and so you may have had more than one position. I've taught the high school level, I've taught the college level, I've done part-time, I've done full-time. I've been a subject matter expert, an author, been an administrator. I've had a variety of different positions. But the bulk of the time, though, I've taught, and I've taught full-time. That's what I did for the vast majority of the years of my career. But I didn't always, and I had to make that decision. So if you're in the boat where you're actually thinking about leaving, I don't want to convince you necessarily one way or another, because it's a really personal decision and it varies, and you will have to come up with that. There are times where I've been really upset in a job that I've had, and things did change. I weathered it and it got better, and I was glad that I stayed. Then there's other times where I could see it wasn't going to get better and I left. And sometimes I was happy I left, sometimes I wasn't happy I left, but it's a really very personal decision. But here's something I want to offer to those that are considering this. It is tempting sometimes to be like, well, if I'm not in the classroom, I won't have to deal with this, 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 this. I'll have all of these things that I won't have to mess with anymore. And that can be true. I highly suggest you make a pro-con list. I made a pro-con list every single time I considered changing a position that I was doing. But the thing you need to know is, for every single thing that you're getting rid of, you will also be giving up something that you may like. And what you have to find is what you're getting going to outweigh what you are giving up. So in my situation, I decided to go out on my own in business last year full time. And I wanted to have more say in the projects that I was working on and how they were executed, the timeline, the level of support I had, being able to have more control over my schedule so that I could take care of people in my family that needed me because things had changed. And I'm thinking, I've been wanting to go out of my own business for many years. And basically last year was the year I made the decision and decided to take the leap. But I've been thinking about it for a long time. And there are days when I'm like, what did I do? And there's times where I have said to myself, I left a tenured college position that I could have had until I died, basically. What am I thinking? And I had excellent insurance too. So I was like, what in the world was I thinking? And you're going to have days like that. And then there's other days where I'm like, there couldn't be anything better than what I'm doing right now in terms of having the say over the kinds of projects that I work on, the people I get to work with, the things I get to do and how I get to do them. It's exciting. It's exciting every day, and I have lots of say in it. And it's quick, it's fast paced, it's exciting. It's also uncertain. And so that's the thing that goes along with this. So to me, in some ways, being in it as a full-time classroom teacher or being outside of it, in a lot of ways, is the difference between, do you want to invest in something that's very, very safe and secure like a money market or a savings account versus the stock market. Now, really the stock market, if you're going to actually start your own business, that's not necessarily the case if you're going to go into something that is, you're going to work for someone else. That can have stability to it, but it has a different kind of stability than teaching does. And these are the things that I have learned the longer that I've been out of the classroom full time. I've learned how I like to work through the days, through the weeks, through the months, how I like to have starts and finishes. There's certain things that teaching gives you that you don't necessarily get everywhere else. And I need to absolutely have a connection to students. I realized that when I was out of the classroom for a while, I was like, I can't be this far away from students. Now, I don't want to teach 15 credit hours because I work crazy hours as it is and working on my business, but I have to have contact with students. That is what keeps me going. That's why I do what I do, is trying to make things better for students. But I have to have contact with teachers. I have to be able to work on, I have to be near math. That's one thing I've realized, like if I'm too far away from my subject for too long, that gets depressing. Like there's a reason I became a math professor. I love my subject and I have to be working on it. So in all this rambling, what am I trying to get at? You will have to make a decision that works for you, but I think it's really important to think about this. Is the situation changeable or not? And is this something that's temporary or is this going to improve over time? With the pandemic, this is going to improve, fingers crossed, at some point, and your situation should change at your school. And so the question is, can you endure it during that time? Not everybody can because we all have different circumstances going on. But what you have to look at is the situation going to change or can I change? That was always what I asked myself. And when I left, it was usually a place where I realized I had done everything I could to make it better for myself and the situation wasn't going to change and it was intolerable for me. But I really had to sit and think about that for a while. And what you need to consider if you are thinking about making this decision is the current situation temporary or permanent? And is this untenable now or is it going to be untenable forever? And that's up to you. I mean, there is no one right answer for that. And if you decide to leap, part of me is going to be so excited for you. The other part of me understands you'll be scared too. And if you decide to stay, same thing. That can be awesome. It can also be frustrating. There is no one right answer, which is the way often math works in real life and most things work. There is no one right answer. But I just wanted you to consider some of these things from someone who has done some different things in their career and has actually left the classroom full time. And I'm still figuring it out. I don't have it all figured out, but I do know that there are things that I've realized that I have to make a job good for me. I've got to have flexibility, but I've got to have some structure, but not too much structure. I've got to have some say in what I do, but I've got to have support. You need to make that list for you. What's essential? Can the classroom give it to you? Can it give it to you in the future? And if it can't, what can? And that's a whole other area. So if you're actually thinking about, well, I want to leave. I definitely want to leave. What are you going to do? That's a talk for another day because that's a big question. And it's one that takes a lot of thought to figure out. So we'll probably talk about that another day. So just some words to think about, not necessarily words of wisdom per se, but just some things to think about on this Wednesday. So I hope you have a great week.